low-wage jobs.
Simon O'Connor.
Chair, look, we've had great theatrical speeches from the other side, but I think I want to draw some of this to a conclusion, at least in my own thinking, because what we are hearing here, Mr. Chair, is fundamentalism at its best. That's right. Fundamentalism which takes one point and overemphasises it at the point and against everything else. So, Mr. Chair, let's give this a little bit of context and let's give this a little bit of consistency, shall we? The first is context. We've heard a lot of things about what this government's not doing and so forth, and somehow that this wage, young person's wage, is a terrible affront because nothing else is happening. Mr. Chair, there is an enormous amount that this government is doing around jobs and supporting the economy and so forth. Of course, we're talking 16 to 19-year-olds. A lot of them are in education. We can just look at the continuing results which are coming out of the education sector, been visiting schools recently, those young people studying there. Of course, we've been rebalancing things around student loans and allowances. We're increasing funding into people doing engineering and science. This is a government committed on a broad front. And the opposition will sit here and wax boring, if I might say, not lyrical, wax boring on a whole lot of elements here that they think is, oh, it's terrible. It sits in a context. They say that the government's not doing anything for jobs. Well, let's talk about The Hobbit. Let's talk about Sky City. Let's talk about the Callahan Institute. Let's talk about mining, and let's remind ourselves, Mr. Chair, that the opposition there said no to all of that. Context is incredibly important. They are a policy platform of no-sayers. They are naysayers to all of those activities, the mining, the Sky City, the Callahan Institute, to funding for education science, and no to this opportunity for young people for a minimum wage. But I want to turn as well, Mr. Chair, to the question of consistency, because actually there's been a great lack of inconsistency from the opposition. They're yelling out, oh my Lord, this is a matter of principle. And we heard it from the Greens, we've heard it from Labour, it's a matter of principle. But of course the Labour Party does have its own youth wage as well. Employers said it was unworkable, it didn't work very well, the same rate as the youth minimum wage. And we've heard it from the opposition, oh that's fine, this is different. They're not actually principled. So those listening in and those in the House, the opposition has attempted a principled response, but they are not principled themselves. One only needs to look at effectively the youth wage that the opposition held. And also we've been talking about the living wage, that's a somewhat arbitrary figure. And then you look at supplementary order paper here, where, $15 has been touted. $15 has been touted, which of course is not the living wage, so we've got two levels of arbitrariness there. Then if you really want to push the inconsistency, $15 is actually 80% of the living wage. So once again, the Labour Party is getting all its numbers muddled up, all very inconsistent. It's a bit like a bank account that you might have overseas and you forget it's actually there. Why be consistent? Why be consistent? So, Mr. Chair, for me, really, I come back to where I started. Great theatricalness. Great fundamentalism. We just want to talk about the minimum wage and ignore all the good things that this government is doing. Context is incredibly important. And the final aspect here, Mr. Chair, the final aspect is employers are not ogres. Okay, how many people in the opposition have actually run businesses? That's right. Mr. Speaker, businesses want to employ people. They're encouraging to employ people. They're not out there to screw every young person down on wages. These are Kiwis, just like all of us. This is all like they're Kiwis like ourselves, wanting to give young people opportunities. And if this House is serious about looking after young people, providing opportunities, that dignity of work, Ms. Fenton, which Rerum Novarum spoke about, if the dignity of work, we will do all within our powers to help young people into work. And I want to pick up finally on Mr. Sabins, because as someone who holds electorates as well, it's been interesting, those that don't have been pontificating to us. When the young people come into our offices or we're talking in the schools, they want opportunities. And if this is going to help them, then why not? 6 months at 80%. But I come back finally. Theatricalness from the opposition, a lack of principle, certainly no desire for context and no consistency in their thinking. Mr. Chair, let's move on.
Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's a great pleasure.